Earlier this month, the Trump administration announced a 25% tariff on most imports arriving from Brazil. While these tariffs apply to physical goods, the administration's official list of complaints identifies Brazilian digital trade and electronic payment services as the primary concern of its investigation. This pie chart shows the global card transaction market outside China. Visa and Mastercard facilitate roughly 90% of it. Consumers and merchants are locked into this cycle through network effects, making it the only practical way to transact. This allows these two companies to act as a mandatory toll booth for the global economy. They skim a fee off the top of millions of daily transactions, effectively moving wealth from local economies back to the United States. Since it is mathematically difficult for a private competitor to convince millions of people to switch platforms at once, American financial hegemony has remained stable across the globe for decades. To understand the friction this creates, look at Brazil before 2020. High network fees meant millions of Brazilians relied on stacks of physical paper currency to conduct their daily business. These U.S. network fees were particularly heavy for a developing economy. They drained the margins of small vendors and encouraged everyday citizens to keep their savings in cash rather than in a bank account. Because so much wealth was physically hidden in homes and pockets, Brazil's formal banking sector lacked the capital reserves necessary to support broader economic growth. This inefficiency eventually became a matter of state concern. The Brazilian government was losing critical tax revenue to a massive, untraceable shadow economy that operated entirely outside the reach of regulators. In November 2020, the Brazilian central bank intervened by launching a direct, state-owned alternative to the private payment processors. To ensure it worked, the state mandated that this new system, called Pix, be integrated directly into the mobile apps of every major financial institution in the country. The system allows users to scan a QR code to send money between bank accounts instantly. This comparison shows the cost to the user. For individuals, a Pix transfer costs exactly $0. Comparing the business fees reveals an even larger gap. Pix charges merchants roughly 0.33%, whereas traditional credit cards average a 2.34% fee. Adoption was nearly universal. Pix now has 160 million users, which accounts for over 90% of the adult population in Brazil. This massive shift brought 70 million previously unbanked citizens into the formal financial system for the very first time. By treating payment infrastructure as a public utility, Brazil neutralized the network advantage that had protected U.S. payment processors for decades. The U.S. government responded by invoking Section 301, launching tariffs against Brazil, and characterizing the state-backed Pix system as an unfair trade practice. However, this area chart shows Pix benefited the broader market. Total financial transactions in Brazil doubled since its introduction. Looking at this specific band for traditional cards, their volume grew alongside Pix. By increasing comfort with digital banking, Pix inadvertently boosted Visa and Mastercard. The tariffs also provided a political opening for President Lula. He used the U.S. trade threat to frame Pix as a symbol of Brazilian sovereignty, aligning himself with a system that has a 92% approval rating. Meanwhile, the Bolsonaro faction, usually close allies of the Trump administration, saw their poll numbers slip as their attempts to explain the benefits of Pix to Washington were ignored. Washington's attempt to use tariffs to protect a legacy monopoly has not only failed to slow the new technology, but has actively strengthened its geopolitical rivals.